We will start this video off with two things. First, it is the statistics of all-time points for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You can see that recently, number 87, Sid the Kid, passed Super Mario for the top spot in Pittsburgh Penguins history, 1,724 points. Meanwhile, Mario's got 1,723. Gino is about 350 points behind at 1,375. Still, I think a lot of us would really be happy with 1,375 if we were in Malkin's position, but of course, Sidney Crosby is one of the best of all time. And also, to open up this video, I wanted to give a big shout out to everybody's favorite NHL Frenchman who is not Alexandre Texier. Big shout out over to Antoine Roussel, former Arizona Coyote, former Dallas Star, former Vancouver Canuck. Because nowadays, Antoine Roussel is a TV analyst, primarily for the Montreal Canadiens, but of course, because Roussel is French, he does a lot of his broadcasting work en français. That doesn't discredit his English ability, though. I've always liked Antoine Roussel as an interview here in Vancouver. He has a really good mouth, and he's able to spew off a lot of nice ideas. I'm sorry, that sounded really wrong. Let's move on, shall we? The reason we are talking about Antoine Roussel and Sid the Kid is because of this article posted on TVA Sports earlier this week. Is it worth imagining Sidney Crosby in another jersey? Antoine Roussel published this. This was updated on the 23rd as well. This article will be linked in the description. Originally, it was in French, so I translated it to English via the Google machine, and there is a very interesting thought process that Roussel presents that dives into Sid the Kid and what his future could potentially look like. And there is a thought in here that I think is definitely worth repeating, which is why we're going to go out there and leave a link in the description of this article if you want to read it yourself. Let's dive into what Roussel says about Sidney Crosby leaving Pittsburgh. When I played against Sid in my early days with the Dallas Stars, my line often faced his. He was obviously the best player on the ice. But there was more. I was trying to bother him, and I still remember it. He didn't look at me. He never looked at me. He knew exactly how to handle that kind of situation. It was lucky because he shouldn't have given me a thumbs up. I would have taken up all the space, but he handled that kind of behavior perfectly. Crosby reached a milestone Sunday against the Canadiens, setting a new record for points with the Pittsburgh Penguins, surpassing Mario Lemieux, the previous record holder, while also moving into 8th place on the all-time scoring list. Crosby is proof that talent counts for a lot, but what really makes the difference is passion. He said himself, love, enthusiasm for your sport or your profession, that's what matters most. Without it, you won't achieve a thing in life. When people see this guy on the ice, they don't see all the hours he spends protecting himself and perfecting himself, even today, at 38 years old. During the All-Star break one year, he was seen on an ice rink in Mont-Tremblant working on his pivots because he felt they weren't going his way in previous games. Every summer, he organizes a camp near Vail, Colorado. He invites other NHL players and the guys answer the call. Crosby wants to test himself, see where he stands, and discover what the new trends are. At this point, it's a bit like industrial espionage, but it's also to his credit that he's organizing this event and that the other NHL players are participating. The elephant in the room now is that even though the Pittsburgh Penguins picked up 2 points on Sunday, it doesn't get them much further ahead for the rest of the year. It always comes back to this question. Is it worth it, imagining Sidney Crosby in a jersey other than the Penguins? Crosby has experienced everything with this organization. He's won everything. And when the ship is sinking, the captain doesn't abandon ship. I'm convinced he has that mentality. Yeah, no, tell that to Quinn Hughes. Okay, I'm sorry, intrusive thoughts. Let's move on. That's what makes Antoine Roussel believe that Sidney Crosby will never be the one to ask to change his address. If it happens, it's because the organization will put an offer on the table and tell him, "This is it, man." Now, what Roussel is saying here is not particularly new. The idea that Sidney Crosby is mentally dedicated to the Pittsburgh Penguins and the only time he decides to leave is if the Penguins pretty much tell him that he should. However, what Roussel goes out here in the next part is the reason we're making this video. If the Penguins give Sidney Crosby an out, the face of the club that acquires him will change radically, even if for 1, 2, 3 seasons. There are players who have this aura, a bit like oracles, that makes everyone else silent when they speak, even their teammates, for whom it's not in their nature. I look at what Sidney Crosby is still accomplishing and I wonder where he'll stop. Will we see him surpass Marcel Dionne and his 1771 points this season? I watch Crosby play, and he still seems to be having fun. But what's unfortunate for the fans is that I get the feeling that if he stays in Pittsburgh, the end will come sooner. Because even when you have the passion, when you've won everything and the team is going through a rough patch, it becomes harder for you. Roussel writes, "If Sidney Crosby leaves the Penguins, I have a feeling it will extend his career. As for the Canadiens, they deserve credit for picking up another point on Sunday. They came back from behind a few times. Now it's official that it will be a tough time against Boston on Tuesday, and they'll have to fight for it." Oh yeah, no, they fought for it. They destroyed Jeremy Swayman in that game. But either way, it's not perfect every game. If we had known that the Canadiens would be this high in the standings at this stage of the season, we would have taken it. So, Roussel's main thesis here is that Sidney Crosby, super captain, one of the best captains in the NHL, he's a dedicated Penguin, but dedication, love, and passion can only go so far. If Sid stays with Pittsburgh, Roussel's arguing that maybe the end of his career will come sooner. But if he ends up going to another team, one that's a lot more competitive, like, let's just toss out a Montreal because everybody's always talking about Crosby and the Habs, Roussel's arguing that if he goes to a better team, this guy might actually have a longer career because of it. It will prolong that competitive flame that exists within Sid. Hey, he's got this camp that he runs in Colorado. Could he go over to the Avalanche? That's always been a conversation too. Sid over to play with McKinnon, Sid to play with the team that his dad was drafted by in Montreal. There are a number of outcomes here, but I feel like Colorado and Montreal are the big two that everybody likes to talk about. But with this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with Antoine Roussel's sentiment here? That Crosby is a gamer, that he is absolutely one of the best captains, but he might not be the one to ask to get traded. If it happens, it's going to be Pittsburgh's call. It's going to be them telling him that it should happen, and it's going to be Crosby accepting it. Because who is he to stick around with a team that's telling him it's his time? If he goes over to a team like Colorado or Montreal, does that extend his career? Does that keep him playing until he's 40, 50, not 50, okay. Let's say 41, 42? If Sidney Crosby goes out there and continues playing, he has longevity that rivals some of the other guys in the NHL record books. If we go over to the all-time points right here, he could realistically pass Marcel Dionne this year. If Crosby and his 1388 games goes up to 1700 like Ron Francis, Gordie Howe, or Mark Messier, Sidney Crosby could probably get 2,000 points, and I'm not even exaggerating there. But is it easier for him to do that with a Montreal? Is that easier for him in Colorado? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.